Welcome back to Seeds of Tomorrow, the next chapter. In our last episode, we explored how CPVO's HR strategy is helping shape the future of work. Today we look at another vital side of the equation, how resources and finance support that same mission. How do people and finance come together to make the CPVO more efficient, more adaptive, and more resilient? As a self-funded EU agency, CPVO has to do more with less, balancing precision, innovation, and sustainability. This episode explores how smart budgeting, AI tools, and strong inter-unit collaboration ensure that every euro and every talent counts. At CPVO, efficiency isn't just a principle, it's a necessity. As a self-funded EU agency, every euro must be used with precision and foresight. Joining us today are Anna-Maria Sideri, Head of the People and Resources Unit, and Christoph Yakovlev, CPVO's Chief Accountant. So welcome to you both. Let's address the issue of the challenge of self-funding. Christoph, let's start with you. Unlike many EU agencies, CPVO is entirely self-financed through fees paid by applicants. That's quite unique. How does this affect your approach to financial management? And what are the main challenges that come with forecasting income that depends on market demand?
Hi, Deirdre. Hi, everyone. Thank you. Indeed, it's a huge challenge. As you said, it's quite unique. We were only two self-funded agency, fully self-funded, a few years back with EU IPO, doing the trademarks and intellectual property for businesses and trademarks in Spain. And now there are a few more agencies, fully or partially self-financed. So indeed, it means that we receive monies from applicants willing to protect plant varieties. And of course, it means that we cannot foresee everything to the euro. It's not possible. Whereas when you receive funds from the EU budget, you know what you are getting. And then you have to then forecast all your expenditure, but at least you know what you are earning, which is not the case for us. So indeed, it changed a bit things. Of course, we are not magicians. So we cannot predict everything. What we try to do, of course, is control what we can control. So we really try to keep an eye on expenditure and be very prudent and careful with this because, as you said, every euro counts. And at the end, it's euros from the breeders, from companies, etc. So they are waiting for something in front of that. And we cannot just say, look, we spent it like this and we don't care. So we have to be accountable. So first we start with expenditure. So we cap them. We have ceilings to make sure that we do not spend more. And then with a lot of historical data, of course, figures that we have in our possession, like number of applications or the average per year, the titles in force, etc. We try to fine tune a bit the revenue that we expect to receive. It's not perfect science. We cannot predict everything. So yeah, that means we have to make sure at least expenditure are under control. And then maybe we will mention this later, but unlike other agencies, maybe, where they receive subsidies from the EU, we have a bit more flexibility. And that means that we can have surpluses or deficits, like private companies, more or less. And that means that year when we will receive more than expected or spend less than expected, we'll have a surplus that will a bit build a reserve. And then when we have a deficit, we take from this reserve. And so, of course, this is as well something that is very useful for us because we have this reserve. We try to keep a buffer, something at least comfortable to continue business operations and to be sustainable. But at the same time, I think our rules are well done because we have an article saying that if we accumulate too many surpluses, it's not possible. It's not on the long run feasible, so we have to reduce this reserve. That means for breeders that we always try to find a balance between what we cost and what they get in return. And that means that if we accumulate too many surpluses, at one point we'll reduce, for instance, the fees or expenditure, etc. So I think it's for the moment it's working, and we have a good financial position, and at the same time delivering quality services for the breeders.
That sounds very good indeed. And Anna-Maria, very welcome to you. From a management perspective, how does this financial model influence HR and operational planning across the agency?
Oh, thank you, Deidre, for having invited us today. It's again a pleasure to be here with you. Well, of course, we are very careful in how we spend money, this public money, and sometimes we are seen super strict, but I prefer to be seen very strict rather the opposite. Because indeed we are evaluating, I don't say monthly, but on a regular basis, our HR needs, so the staffing, the needs of the agency. And of course, the question is, do we really need that or not? So we are making savings as much as possible. And what the outer world maybe does not see, because of course it's not so visible, is all the work we are doing with Christophe, his team, and the HR team is to reduce expenses. So should it be missions? Should it be establishing plan? Should it be cutting unnecessary expenses? Should it be automation? Because this, of course, is a lot of, let's say, resources that we gain. So we are doing really a lean management process to reduce as much as possible, and this is ongoing. And this then is visible when we present our budget in front of the Administrative Council, but as well as I say in the previous episode, when I said at the EU and the European Agency Network meeting that we reduced the accounting and finance sector from 15 to 3 in the years. This is a huge achievement. And again, I think that it's a major one, which we are very proud of. And we'll continue, of course, our efforts in reducing the spending and improving the way we spend, of course, this money.
Thank you, Anna Maria. So, Christophe, could you share how the finance team works to maintain a high level of efficiency and perhaps some of the tools or methods that make it possible?
Well, it's a huge question, and it might be a lot accounting stuff. So I don't want to lose all your auditors. As I mentioned, we have a flexible way of working in a sense because we are a decentralized agency. We don't receive money from the EU budget. So, for instance, we don't have the same accounting system that they do, that they are using. So we have our own system. And the good thing is that all these systems have been integrated in all our operations in the core business software that we have, managing plant varieties, examinations, etc., and invoicing fees. And everything is intertwined. So when something happens in one system, it's reflected in the other. And at the end, it's almost no manual intervention. So it's faster, more reliable, less human errors. And everything we try to be as smart as possible. And every time we can integrate more, we do it. And I don't know if we'll mention this later on, but with AI as well, we have been able to develop a lot of small things. So it's not like we are inventing a new software or something. We're just finding ways to work, I would say, like Anna Maria mentioned, with a more lean mindset, just to really focus on added value tasks, and everything that we can automate or streamline, etc., we do it. And this is thanks to the fact that we have our own environment that allows a lot of flexibility, integration with other systems. Maybe that would not be possible with the tools from the Commission, for instance. But for the moment, we have this, I would say, opportunity to do it like that.
Okay, thank you very much. Anna Maria, inter-unit cooperation seems crucial to that. How do your teams, HR, finance and administration, work together to ensure resources are optimized without compromising quality or staff well-being?
Well, it was a big challenge to me, I have to admit, because I'm not an accountant. I have a more HR background. So when I took up the role in 2022, it was quite a challenge to me to understand how the team work, how to streamline indeed the processes, and indeed to take over the heritage on my previous head of unit, who indeed had a more, let's say, accountant background expertise. So at the very beginning, I tried to understand how they worked. It was not easy. I have no shame in saying that because I did not understand. They were very willing to explain, but it was quite technical. And then I embraced a more leadership process. Say, okay, I have to let it go and I trust. So I say, okay, guys, show me what you can do. And we need to advance. We need to improve our procedure. We need to do things smarter and better to save money. And the team was enthusiastic. Christophe, Anne-Marie, Ekaterina, the three of them embraced the challenge, as well the HR team. And they work very closely together. They are working very closely together. And I'm amazed to see the results because I have, as I said in the previous episode, champions that are Christophe and Thiago, but also their team are amazing in bringing about new ideas, in reducing waste, as if you use a lean vocabulary. And indeed, they must work together. I explain myself better because you cannot have two separate teams nowadays. If we want to make savings, we need to act as the whole team and to understand where we can act, how, and we have to join efforts. That's what they did, HR and accounting. And all of them are much into improving, into automation, into AI. And all the actors of the team are pretty much active in understanding how we can reduce waste, how we can improve and bring about ideas. I have to admit, some of them we cannot implement. We have a legal framework, that is the staff regulation, financial regulation in this case. But I'm talking about a unit of 9 committed staff members who bring about a change. So some are more visible, some less. But thanks to the effort, we improve and we lead by example. So we really bring about a change from, again, a kind of administrative running of the accounting and budget on more be linked to the staff, help the staff doing presentation, doing online trainings, surveys, and just to gather the information, what can we do and how can we do it better and together. And this worked very well, in my opinion.
The last few years have seen rapid digitalization, including the use of AI for process improvement. Christophe, how is CPVO integrating digital and AI tools in financial management or reporting? Are there examples where automation has made a measurable difference?
Yes, indeed. There are now no one can deny AI. I think it's everywhere all the time. It's a bit like accounting. We are everywhere all the time. So this is very good because, as I mentioned, we need to work with everyone. So as mentioned, we don't want to reinvent the wheel or go for something very huge because, of course, you have a significant gain, but it's a lot of resources and time. So baby steps, we try to improve everything that we can. This year, for instance, we improved the way we encode bank statements. So I don't know if it will speak to everyone, but all the money we receive from the applicants need to be encoded and cleared with the corresponding invoice. In the past, we did it manually. So not one by one, but almost. So it's a lot of work, manual, not a good added value. I mean, when you're doing this, you're not doing something else. So you're always wondering if you could do something else. So it was really cumbersome with a huge risk of errors because sometimes the digits you can confuse, etc. So it was cumbersome. With a mix of AI, Excel macro, so a specific feature in Excel, for instance. So I've been able to transform the file from the bank into one TXT file that we just upload in the system. And it does everything. Of course, we control, we check, but at the end, where maybe it would take us 1 hour and a half, 2 hours, now it's 5 minutes.
That's amazing.
So So yeah, it's a good achievement. So again, it's not fancy, it's not magnificent. We didn't create a software, but it's just a way to work differently. This is something we wanted to work on a few years ago, but we never had time until the day we say now we'll take the time. And indeed, what Anna-Marie mentioned, it's true. It's a mindset. I think as soon as I arrived in the CPVO a few years ago, the team, Anna-Marie, who was the accounting officer, told me, look, take an eye on the processes. There is no stupid remarks or questions. If you think it can be improved, just say it and we'll do it. And I think this is the mindset as well that we have, I think, in the CPVO, to always do more with less. And this, I think, small steps, it's easier in accounting because it's administrative, repetitive, etc. I don't think it's necessarily applicable to everyone because all the jobs are different. But at least for administrative, it works very well. And AI as well has been very useful to, for instance, create flows, to inform authorizing officer of things to validate. If they are not here, it's sent to the backup, for instance. So it's a really small thing, but at the end, it avoids having someone taking the phone and saying, "Look, can you validate? Because otherwise we are blocked. It cannot be paid, etc." So small things, and we are already looking further. For instance, to have something digital. I would say more digital than now for the reimbursement of experts attending meetings and other I would say tools like this to improve a bit everywhere.
Anna-Maria, your unit also oversees AI initiatives across CPVO, from HR to training. How do you ensure AI is introduced responsibly and that staff are part of the learning process rather than left behind?
Well, first of all, we have an AI policy that was approved by our president, that was circulated, shared with all the staff. So we have a legal basis. It did not come as a surprise. Then the HR team is very active in proposing AI training for staff. And Thiago said in the last episode, the success of the AI training during the summer, and he's proposing new trainings. All the management is following dedicated AI training. So we are all on the same board. So we are on the same board. So we are not really leaving anybody behind. Then it's true that we are testing the AI. So we don't have really a KPI in place, but what we are documenting is the innovation that we can document. Let me explain. So if we are more lean in the procedure, and as Christophe just explained, instead of 1 hour, we take 5 minutes. Instead of one day, we take half a day to process information, to process application. I mean, it's all the agency involved. So we are all involved in the same process, and we are all experimenting in a way. And what I do expect is next year, so 2026, then we have more KPI. But so far, I think the achievements are very good because we managed to involve all the staff. That is not so easy as a task, but we did. And on the other side, we have several sectors active, ongoing, experimenting, talking to each other. And this, to me, is already an excellent achievement.
In an agency where resources depend on annual applications and external factors, precision isn't optimal. It's vital. Christophe, what does financial forecasting look like at CPVO? How do you plan when income levels fluctuate from year to year?
Well, I think we already mentioned a lot. We do what we can. I would say there is no crystal ball. We cannot, as mentioned, foresee everything. So we really try to be as accurate as possible, using historical data, of course, scenario-based forecasting. So we can have, like ranges of revenue, for instance. And then, of course, we monitor closely the trend and the actual figures compared to what we predicted. As mentioned, we cannot control what we cannot control. So if we expected 1 million, we receive 800,000. There is not much we can do. Again, it will be useful to fine-tune the forecasting for the future. But what is very useful for us is the reserve, as mentioned, because as I said, we can have good years, less good years, and then we can take on this reserve. And the fact is that it's always balanced because we cannot exceed 50% of an annual budget. I don't think I mentioned this, but this is the threshold that we have for the reserve. But still, we can use this buffer to say, okay, we foresee this revenue this year, and we'll see. If it's less, we still have this reserve, of course, that we monitor closely, because if it decrease at one point, we'll have to do something. And again, if it increases too much, we have to do something as well, but we still have this reserve. And the fact is that since we are very prudent with expenses, and I don't want to say always, but most of the time, we never spend everything we expected, we foresaw. So sometimes we have remarks from the Court of Auditors because our budget execution is not high enough, I would say. But on the same time, it means that we are very prudent and we don't spend just to spend money. So I think this is as well the approach of the office. And as Anna-Maria mentioned, that we spend what we need.
I think Christophe is very humble because Christophe and Marie and all the team are always behind the scene, and I have to recognize their value in forecasting, in assisting the management and staff alike, in how to spend the money and how to improve. So I have to contradict a bit Christophe, but in the positive sense, because they are doing an amazing job behind the scene that should be recognized. So they are there not to guide, but to give advice, to share the expertise, and also to share how to improve the spending of public money, to make the best out of it. And indeed, we are not afraid of the Court of Auditors. On the contrary, we are very grateful for their remark, because their remarks make us grow, make us work better. And indeed, what we do is we share the remarks, we do info session, and as I said, they're doing a continuous work behind the scene. And I think what changed from the past is really like the accounting thing is more visible, is more there, but with another role. It's not just executing, the account is indeed executing the budget, but really like we are going to offer our advice. Then, of course, it's your responsibility as authorizing officer by delegation, but still we can share your expertise, and then it's up to you. But we are there to support. And I think also my colleagues feel relieved in a way that if they don't know the reply, they can have some serious advice, and then they can take their own decision, including the presidency. But this is what it changed since the last years. And I think that also the expertise of the previous accounting thing now with Christophe, and it will continue, the heritage is very important, because again, Rome was not built in a day. So if we can advance now, is because of the work the colleagues have done before, the heritage we have, and because of the guidance and the freedom of experimenting we have, that we can go miles ahead. This is my opinion.
Thank you, Anna-Maria.
Thank you, Anna-Maria.
This also means planning at the human level, making sure staff and budgets are aligned. How do you ensure that long-term strategy and daily reality meet halfway?
This is a tricky question. It's a challenge. Again, I'm not ashamed of sharing that is an everyday challenge, because it changes all the time. And what I try not only to do my best, but to share my point of view, not just as HR representative, but as a county representative. So it's a win-win, as I call it. So just to evaluate the real needs, and as I said in the last podcast, the potential of what we already have in terms of human resources and what we will need for the future. So we ran already an exercise on the future needs with our vice president. It was more a task force, but the view is indeed to focus on what we can offer to our staff, considering the current wave of retirements and considering as well the needs for the future. So again, it's a balance. And I have to admit it's a bit of a challenge, or it's a challenge to cook, because human beings are complex. There is not a black and white solution that I can offer. So I try to do my best with the tools I have, considering AI, automation, but also again, we have to consider the human dimension. So again, staff is aging. People are in a way, if you want, after 30 years service, of course, to be recognized, but as well, a bit more tired. And then what can we offer to them and what can they offer to us? And this must be integrated in the vision to the future. So that's why is again a creativity exercise, as well, I believe, is a respectful exercise because no one must be excluded. But on the same time, I think the transparency is very important. So to explain what is expected from the organization, what is expected from the staff member, and what are the challenges they are facing, and then we come together to a solution, to a win-win solution. But nothing is decided beforehand. So this is my role also to ensure that we are aligned, that we are on the same page, and how can we look to the future together. And this, I have to admit, is not black and white, is a daily challenge.
Thank you, Anna Maria. Both of you work at the intersection of people and numbers, a space where efficiency meets purpose. How does this collaboration translate into governance, the way decisions are made and priorities set across the agency?
Since I started from the beginning, maybe Anna Maria could start for this one.
Thank you, Christophe. Well, again, it's a challenge, but I think it's a great challenge. I mean, we try to give to share our expertise as much as possible and to offer our advice. It's not to influence, because this would be unfair. But we are in a very, I would say, privileged position, and for which I'm grateful, because the presidency consults us each time a difficult decision or important decision are to be taken. So maybe I am the representative, or sometimes they ask directly to Christophe and Marie, but no decision is taken without prior consultation of my unit. So we offer our advice, but of course, in a way, we don't have always a 360 degrees perspective. That is normal. So we try to be as much visionary as possible. So to see the future and then to offer a solution. But then, of course, we are not in the shoes of our other head of unit or other particular cases. So it's very complex, a situation. And I do understand my colleagues, because it's not so easy to take a strong decision. But on the other side, sometimes we might appear very strict. But again, because we are the guardians of the budget, we are the guardians of the agency. So what we do is in a good faith to defend, let's say, the agency and on the information we have. So that's why it's tricky, because we try to do the best as we could, but sometimes it's difficult for us to project into a higher level. And that's why we try to dialogue, to have a continuous open channel with the colleagues to understand the concern, the fears, the worries, and to offer solution according to the financial regulation. And this, as I said, is tricky because it's not so flexible, I would say.
Yes, I agree. Maybe to complement this reply from Anna-Maria, which is already very thorough. I think transparency is key in everything we do. We never hide anything. It's very transparent for everyone. So we give data, I would say, especially in accounting, because maybe HR is more, it tackles a lot more aspects than just figures and numbers. But for accounting, when we are asked for decisions, or even, of course, we report to our administrative council. The idea is that we share things and we say we don't hide. If we have questions and doubts, we raise them, and nobody is taken by surprise. And especially for figures, all the accounts, all the budgets, they are presented. So I think it's clear for everyone where we are going or where we're trying to go. And then I think it helps as well with this transparency. Look at the data, look at the figures. This is why we want to do this and that and not this and that, for instance. So transparency as well, I think, is and that's why, of course, we are glad to give advice, and we love having people raising questions and asking us about everything linked to accounting, and the same for HR.
Thank you very much, Christophe. And how do you keep teams engaged and motivated when resources are tight or priorities shift?
Well, again, it's another challenge. I would say simply by leading by example, by not giving up. Again, by appreciating our talents and say, look, we are on the same boat together. It's a challenge for all of us, manager or not. And let's try to come up with solutions, having in mind, the overall, objective, that is, we have to defend the agency. So we have to bring about a positive change. This, from my point of view, it works well because all my staff is engaged, have a very high level of ethics. And then one is about, okay, but we work for the agency, even if, it's sometimes hard, but the agency is, is above all, and we all want to do good to make the agency shine. And this brings about, let's say, a collective intelligence. And with collective intelligence, we find solution. Of course, it takes time. It's not that we meet up in 1 hour and we find solution. So we take also the time to brainstorm, and insist a lot on this. Take our time to brainstorm, to speak to the different teams, to bring about new ideas, and also to come for example, the unit meeting with collective solutions. So the ideas have already been discussed. And when they are presented, there are still options on the table we can implement, and then we implement them together. And this works very well. But of course, it's because I'm surrounded by experts and professionals. And this is a gift because all my unit is very committed to bring about a change, to bring about improvements, and to reflect on how we can go extra miles together.
Thank you, Anna-Maria. Looking ahead, what innovations or improvements do you see coming next for CPVO in financial or resource management? Christophe.
Okay, my turn. I just wanted to say a few words about the previous question about motivation, etc. I think HR is doing a very good work, and to keep us all motivated. For instance, there is a lot of initiatives, a lot of trainings. So I think it's easier to be motivated when you have perspective, when you can project, when you can learn new things as well. And for this, it's of course the fact that we are in a EU institution, but as well our HR team, very proactive and proposing a lot of things, suggesting a lot of things. And this, piles up in the working conditions that we have, that makes the CPVO, I agree with Anna-Maria, a place where we want to work. We are proud to work for the CPVO. We want to still be proud and keep being proud of working for the CPVO. So I think all of these, the trainings, we had a lot of well-being activities. We have a lot of things like this that helps us as well work together, team building. We have social day, etc. So as well, this is small things that helps us being together. And now I stole sufficient time to reply to your last question about financial resources management, right, and the challenges. Well, I don't think there will be something very new in the fact that we'll be still self-funded. So we'll have to still be prudent with expenditure, but I think this is clear now. There is a lot of things going on a high level, I would say, to rationalize even more all the costs. We have a strategic discussion on the US testing, things like that, to see if the network of examination offices where we are working with could as well bring savings. We have other ways as well to bring more added value to the breeders. So there is a lot of things going on. And for the planning, we'll keep doing as we can and trying to estimate as accurately as possible everything that we can estimate. And of course, you have years and up and down, but at the end, globally, the trend, I think we can more or less forecast it. So I would say this is it. And then we don't know what the future brings with the wars, with everything going on. AI, I think we are using it for the moment, but we never know. Maybe there will be no more agency. It will be a robot doing everything. I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I mean, we will see. For sure, there will be a lot of things, and even a lot that I don't think about for the moment.
For now, CPVO is the place to be.
Yes, indeed. What I think, at least for financial management and HR management, what I do see, for example, with I mentioned this wave of retirements, we could considering not replacing some of the posts, doesn't mean all the posts, thanks to automation AI, but we need a human being, we need the workforce. So it's not that we are going to fire people. This is absolutely not. On the contrary, I'm really focused on talents, on people. I do believe that there is still a lot to explore on talents of our staff. But then indeed, what we could do to reduce expenses is to think about the posts that will become vacant because of retirement. And then again, the question is, do we really need to replace them or not? And this or not has to be complemented by a reasonable, let's say, planning. It's not just, okay, we are using AI. Okay, but how? I mean, it has to be well defined with the plan, with the project and so on. But our staff is our value. So of course, we count on our staff and we rely upon a lot our staff because for me, Anna-Maria, our staff is our future, the current and the future one. Then if we can be more ambitious and do more with less, we will. But still, this is a strategic decision that must be taken, and really a plan should be drafted to be on the right, let's say, side. But I don't believe that AI will replace people. This for sure not. AI will empower our staff. This for sure. This is what I believe in.
Thank you, Anna-Maria. If you could summarize CPVO's philosophy in one line, how would you describe it?
This is not so easy. CPVO's philosophy in one line. There is plenty that we can say in one line. Maria, maybe one.
I think is lean. We are lean. We try to get rid of the so-called waste in a good way. And we are engaged. There is no lean without engagement. We are engaged to do better, to be smarter, to cost less to the breeders, to be greener. So this for me is all lean and engaged. And I think this is a good summary of our philosophy.
I wanted to say to do more with less, so it's more or less what Anna-Maria mentioned.
Thank you very much, Christophe, Anna-Maria. Thank you so much for sharing your vision. This conversation shows how at CPVO, efficiency isn't about doing less, it's about doing better with precision, creativity and collaboration. Thank you both for joining us today. And for our listeners out there, see you on the next episode.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
Deirdre.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.